Is N-1. We're going to spend a couple days on N-2. We're going to do some experiments tomorrow with Miss Acock's class. It's going to be great. And then we will move on to talking about that mean and standard deviation. It's going to be great. Here we go. Okay, can I take them off? Don't need that right now. We can worry about that later. Okay. But I don't have that pen. There might be something like
the star test yesterday?
Yeah. That one, I don't know the parts. Alright. So, for our distributions, what does it mean to look or to be on a distribution list or to distribute?
Spread out.
Yeah, to spread out. So that's really what we're looking at in distribution is how is the data spread out. How is the data spread out? All right, and today we're going to be talking about a curve. And the curve is going to be the general shape the data creates when put into a histogram. So remember which one of those which one does not belong was a histogram.
It was the top purple one.
Yeah, the top purple one. What does a histogram kind of look like?
It looks like a bar graph, but they are squished together.
Yeah, it's like a bar graph, but they're squished together. Okay, so our curve, we're going to be kind of outlining what that looks like in a histogram format. All right, last vocabulary word before, well, really today's all vocabulary, but big vocabulary word before we look at examples is the word skew. What does it mean for something to be a skew or to be skewed? The data is skewed. Yeah, Alex?
Slightly off balance.
Yeah, slightly off balance. So if you're askew, something's kind of like a little off, you're off balance. If you walk into your room and you're like, something's askew, that means like something's not quite right. So skew means to like be off balance or going towards one side. So kind of off balance, going towards one side. There's lots of ways you can describe that. Not centered. All right, you are going to be getting a glue-in. For this glue-in, you can go ahead and you don't need to cut it apart. You are going to just glue it straight in as it is if you have enough room. And then once you get that glued in, I'm going to use about 3 or 4 colored pencils. I think I used 4 colored pencils today. I'm going to use red, purple, green, and
Dark green or light?
I'm running out of colored pencils. I'm running out of pencils. I'm thinking what I can Great, thank you. Alright, so get that glued in. Yeah, can I give you... This one's almost on its last leg. Alright, so get that glued in. You want the bars going up and down. Or you can draw sideways. So you can see where it is, so you don't have to overuse the glue. Alright, so you want the bars going up and down? Okay, Justin, what are you doing? Alright, what did I say I was going to use? Red.
You're doing red, green, purple, and another color.
Red. Purple. Alright, I'm using light green. Apparently I don't have a dark green. And... oh, I have a dark green. I'm going to use dark green. And brown.
And brown.
It's not an ugly color. I like brown.
Oh, this color's cute. This one.
They go together.
Yeah.
Look.
I just realized that
Yeah.
looks cute.
Super cute. Alright, if you want to use other colors, that's fine. You don't have to use the same colors as me. Just letting you know. Ooh. Red Hot and Inferno. Inferno? Inferno. How do you say that? Inferno. And then I just got brown. Green, brown, and purple. Violet, if you will. Alright, so for this first one, when we look at this data, where is most of this data located? At the beginning or at the end? At the beginning. So when we draw this curve, straight line, we're going to kind of talk about having like a hill or a hump. Okay? So this hump is going to come at the beginning. The majority of that data happens here. So we're going to make a curve a little bit before that y-axis. I do, they're right up there. Okay, so we're going to start a little bit, so it goes up over that biggest one, and then it comes down and it tapers off. So it's a curve, it's not a straight line, kind of like a hill. So it starts off at the top of the hill and kind of works its way down. All right, what about this middle one? What's happening with this one? Where would the top of the hill be?
In the middle.
Yeah, in the middle, in the center. So it's going to start off low. It's going to go up over that top as a hill, so it arcs over. And then what happens? Yep, it comes back down and gets low. That arc is in the middle of the graph. So again, these are curves. You want to make sure they kind of look hilly. Okay, and then lastly, what kind of curve, what's this one going to look like? Yep, it goes low and goes high. For some reason, I really struggle with going left to right on a hill, so I'm going to start at the top over here and then work my way down. That one's kind of goofy. It's not quite the graph we wanted, but that's okay. We're flexible. All right, so these are the three types of curves. There's one where the hump is at the beginning, the hump is in the middle, and one where the hump is at the end on the right side. Okay, so we're going to talk about these different types and their names. So I'm going to draw kind of three lines going across so I can categorize them. We're not too worried about the numbers on the x and the y axis. I just wanted to show you what it looks like with the bars. Okay, we're going to just make a quick sketch of this first one, generally of what most will look like. So on most of them, when we do this, we're going to have our x and our y axis. And on our x and y axis, that curve is going to start out high, and then it gets low as it goes to the right. Right, what are we going to call that part that has the highest?
The peak?
The peak, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Let's use some of the vocab we already have. Would that be the mean, median, or mode?
Or no, that would be...
The highest is going to be the mode, because it has the most. When we look at the median here, take a look back at our histogram if you need to. Is our median going to be with that mode, kind of right in the middle, or a little off to the side? Yeah, where, like which box would the median be in probably? Yeah, it'd peak kind of like probably here, so it's a little bit down the hill, but And then remember mean. Our definition of mean is the calculated average, the calculated middle. Not necessarily like high, low, high, low. The calculated middle, which gets a little thrown off because we have this data way down here. And so the mean ends up being pretty much in the middle of the graph. So if we cut this graph out and we fold it in half, that mean ends up being in the middle. All right, this little part here, where that little hill drops off there and it gets to be this teeny tiny thing, we call that a tail. So in this type of curve, there's only one tail. And is that tail on the left side or on the right side? On the right side. So we call this a right skew. Yeah. So this is going to the right because that tail is going off to the right. So this is a right skew. It's also known as a positive skew. Okay? One way that you can remember it's a right skew is where the tail is. But the reason I call it a right skew is because the mean is on the right side. Of the mode and median. Okay, so the mean is on the right side of the mode and median. That's really why we call it a right skew. But one way you can remember it's a right skew is by looking at that tail. Some people just look at it. This is where I get really goofed up, and you guys are going to probably have to correct me a lot over the next couple of days, is that I always look at the hump. And to me, the hump's on the left, so I like to think this is left skewed. But because the mean is on the right, it's right skewed. We look at where that tail is headed. All right, next one, we have this one. So we're going to draw a little graph here. Okay, this time the hump comes in the middle. So it starts off as a tail. It goes up, humps, comes back down. So this one ends up having two tails, one on each side. This is going to be the one that we're going to deal with the most this chapter. So we're going to get really used to seeing these ones. However, these don't always happen in real life, but relatively they kind of do. It's surprising how often it happens. All right, where is that mode going to be? Right in the middle. The highest point is that mode because that's our frequency. It's how often it happens. And if you need to visualize that, look back at these bars. Which bar was the highest? That middle one. All right, if we find the median, we kind of work our way high, low, high, low, high, low to the middle. Where is the middle part going to be? Right by that mode, yeah. It actually ends up being together on that mode. The mode and the median end up being the same. And because there's generally about the same above as below, and that hump, where is the mean going to end up? Same place. So the mean, median, and mode all end up in that middle. Like I said, we're going to spend the most time on this one. So this one, there's a lot of different names for it. Okay, one name we could call it is if we're talking about the skew. Is this skewing left or right? It's just kind of in the middle. So we say that there is no skew. So you might call this a graph with no skew. The phrase we normally use for this is the normal. And I starred that one because that's the one that you will generally hear us say. Right? If you continue stats, or if you talk to someone who studied stats a long time ago, they're going to call this a bell curve. If you ever hear a teacher say they're grading on a curve, it means that they want the majority of grades in the middle, and then they want it to work out. So only a few people got really high scores, only a few people got really low scores. People are in the middle mostly. Okay, you might also hear this called symmetrical. What does symmetrical mean? Yeah, symmetrical means like you can fold it in half, like a butterfly. Symmetrical curve. You also might hear this be called a perfect distribution. Generally in this class we're going to call it a normal curve. 9th grade algebra. Intermediate algebra. Whatever grade you're in. Doesn't matter. Alright, big thing about this normal curve that we want to make sure we note is that the mean is the same as the mode, which is the same as the median. All right, some of you are pretty intuitive. You could probably fill in this last one on your own. We're going to just do it quick together, though. Whoa, that got blurry. All right, so now on this last one, we have our x and y axis still. But it's going to start off as a tail, and then at the end is our hill. I'm not as great at drawing these ones. For some reason, this one's easier for me to draw right to left. I don't know why. Can't. It's goofy. All right, so where is our mode going to be? Where was the most? Yep, right at the peak. So wherever that top of that hill is, that's your mode. Okay, what about our median? Where would that middle end up being? Is it to the left or to the right? To the left. Is it like exactly in the middle of our graph? Like right here? Well, this one, there's a lot of these in there. So this is going to cancel out this and 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 this. So many here. That median gets pushed off a little bit to the side. So it's a little bit down the hill. But because our mode doesn't just take into account what's the least number, it actually looks at what is the least number. It doesn't just say, oh, that's a low, that's a high, that's a low, that's a high. Our mean ends up being in the middle of the graph. Okay. What do you notice about all the graphs? Yep, we labeled the mode, median, mean on all of them. Generally, what's in the middle of all of them? What? No, what's like in the like if you look at cross, what's always in the middle about? It should be the mean should be in the middle, right? No, we're guessing at that one. IDK. The mean is generally going to be in the middle of however long that graph is. If we fold it in half, that labeled that. My bad. All right, using your inductive reasoning skills, what might this one be called? Skew. What makes you say it's left skew? Oh, it's opposite of the other one. And the tail is on the left. This is also called a negative skew. And again, the big reason why we say it's the left skew or a negative skew is because the mean is on the left side of the mode and median. We're just going to make one quick note about the tail. So if it's hard for you to know left skew, right skew, and you want to know those without having to look back at your notes every time, remember what's one part of the graph that will be on the same side of the skew? The tail. Yep. So remember the tail is on the side of the skew. If there's two tails, one on each side, then it's not skewed. All right, that is it for your notes.